Welcome back to the School of Architecture, University of Queensland introductory videos for Grasshopper and Rhino. Now, we're still working on our simple tower routine, but we want to take a little bit of time just to look at how we can start to clean up this routine. Now, even though that this is a very simple Grasshopper routine, there are some routines that get quite complicated and quite intense, with spaghetti covering half of the canvas here. And in working with routines and so on will become more commonplace in offices, and so you need to imagine how people are going to pick up your routines and be able to interpret them and actually do something with them. So we're going to look at how we can label our elements, group them together, and just generally neaten up the appearance of our canvas. Now, the first thing that we can do is, if we select a bunch of components together, we can see these little alignment tabs on the side, so we can align them to the left, to the right, and we can do the same. We can select these, align them to the left. In this set we can align them also that they're in the middle, so that just generally neatens them up. Now, what I'm also going to do is just give myself a little bit of space between some of these elements, because we know that this part here is all about the facade and this part here is mainly about the slab, although we are getting inputs from the facade from these inputs over here. So we can neaten those elements up for a start. Now, what we can do is we can start to label some of these sort of subroutines within the whole routine, and we can use what's called the scribble command. Scribble. Now, this command lives under the parameters tab in through here. So if we pull this here, the utilities, it's scribble there. So if we click and then double click on there, it just gives us a text, and so what we can write here is the facade. Let's just call it facade. We can then adjust the size of that element, and we can also change the font of it as well. So we can go and just do something a bit more standard. If we can find an Arial narrow, okay, and we can then start to, so we can then copy and paste. So this is the slab, floor slabs, okay. These are the parametric inputs. Let's call these parametric variables. Okay, and we'll call this the input geometry. Okay. So what we can do is we can start to group some of these elements together. So to start grouping these elements together, we can select them together, go edit, group, and the same through there. We can go Control G. The floor slabs are here, Control G, Control G. Now that seems to, it groups them together and sort of color codes them. We can also, we might ungroup those ones, and oopsie daisy, group those. We somehow grabbed the floor slab twice. So when we move them, we can move them as, if we hold onto the box, we can move it as a whole thing. So not only does it make it easier to move parts of the routine around, but it also neatens it up. Now you can change the box outline by just double clicking on it and it reconfigures it, so it just depends on what you want to do. Simple is often the best. Now you can, in lieu of using the scribble tool, you can actually put a little note on the group itself like that. And as a final thing, what would be useful is to give a little bit of information about how the whole routine works. Now, having cleaned up our canvas a little bit, perhaps we want to give a little bit of information to the user just to instruct them how this works. Now, if we use the scribble tool, we can type "this is a simple routine that constructs a tower using curves and offset distances." It's not quite right, but I'm sure you can figure out what sort of a description that is more useful. We can adjust the size of that, so we could probably dial it down, go OK. Now that's kind of useful, but once we start to get a much longer or more detailed information, this starts to actually just go along the single line and becomes a very difficult thing to read. So the other thing is just to call up a panel and use the panel as the same sort of thing. Now the panel you can use, resize it, it will resize the text, and often it's could sit sort of somewhere towards the start of it, and it can be quite detailed and quite compact. That's the end of this short video. Now we're going to keep working with the Simple Tower and start looking at how we're going to get some data out of this model, looking at the area of the slab and then inputting that into an Excel file. Thanks.